That's fine.
Just gonna make it a go into the room and take the page that we're going.
Let me be behind the mixer so that way it doesn't make any weird noises.
Sorry, guys.
To go?
All right, good evening, everybody. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
It's a new setup, it's a new room. Thank you all very much for your patience. I want to first bring up Olivia DePablo before we get too far into things. We have interpretation, Spanish interpretation this evening. And so I just want Olivia to introduce herself and say a little bit of something about what you do. Yeah.
Good evening, good evening, everybody. My name is Olivia Pablo, and I'm here today to provide interpretation from the English language to Spanish. We do have some community members that are monolingual that are here, and it is my pleasure to provide that opportunity for them to incorporate themselves into the city efforts. I also wanted to thank, truly from the bottom of my heart, right now specifically, right this minute, with everything that is going on. I wanted to thank the city of Durango for allowing us to promote language accessibility. Thank you for being here. Muchas gracias. I'm going to repeat this super quick in Spanish. Buenas noches, yo soy Olivia Pablo, estoy aquí para proveer interpretación para estas personas que llegaron ahorita, que algunos de ellos no hablan perfecto inglés. Estamos muy agradecidos con la ciudad de Durango, que en estos momentos tan difíciles de incertidumbre nos permitan promover el acceso lingüístico. Muchas gracias. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ay, un aplauso.
Okay, we also have childcare available this evening. It doesn't look like anybody needs it tonight, but just for the future, if you left your kiddos at home, that's also an option. We have Harper and Alyssa over here, ready to wave your hands. We're going to be here at the Durango Rec Center for 2025, at least as we know it today. And so we have the nice childcare room over there for babysitting during these meetings. So these happen every other month, but I also want to take a moment to read our Indigenous land acknowledgement before we get started. This is a call to honor and respect Indigenous sovereignty and self-determination. As residents and visitors of Durango, we are called upon to educate ourselves about the history and cultural heritage of the land we inhabit. The city of Durango is situated on the ancestral homelands and territories of the Nuchu, Ute, Picaria, Apache, Pueblos of New Mexico, Hopi Sinom, Hopi, and Dene Navajo nations. The original stewards of this land were forcibly removed and exposed to countless atrocities by the United States government, including repeatedly broken treaties, forced assimilation, the tragic legacy of Indian boarding schools, and the loss of ancestral homelands. We recognize lasting generational trauma exists within Native communities today. We affirm the continuing importance of ancestral sites to descendant communities as integral to the living cultural landscape. This acknowledgement only becomes meaningful when combined with accountable relationships and informed actions. May this serve as a step toward inclusion and reconciliation. Okay. And with that, my name is Clancy Nixon. I'm a community engagement specialist for the city of Durango. If I haven't met you, hopefully we get to meet tonight, and most of you on the way in. And in other engagement forums. I do some food and drinks over there. If you haven't caught those over there, thanks, Kat, back there. So feel free at any point to get up and get a refreshment. This evening, how it works, it will have a 20-minute presentation, about 20 minutes. Tonight's theme is out of the prosperity office. Mike French will come up here shortly, who's our prosperity officer, to give a presentation on housing and tourism and economic opportunity. From there, we'll move into about 15 minutes usually of questions about the presentation itself. And then all the tables that you see around here, we have a bunch of different departmental staff. So all of our departments, not the library tonight. Luke, our library director, had a sick kiddo at home, so he last minute had to bail on tonight, rightly so. And so everybody else, I think, is represented here tonight. So feel free to mosey around the room, get to know our staff. We'll do introductions after the questions, so you get to know us a little bit better as well. But that'll take us to 6:30. So that's the plan for the evening. A couple of things that we do with the feedback tonight, we will summarize all of the feedback. All of the folks that you speak with at tables, they fill out a form that I annoy them with later and say, hey, give me the highlights and let me know who you talk to. And then we kind of come up with a summary and send that off to council, so they get a general idea of what was said tonight. Don't forget, we have a survey on those iPads at the end of the night. There'll also be a QR code that's flashed up on the screen that we want to know how we did with everything that we're doing with our engagement efforts when we ask for your feedback. So please take a moment to fill that out and let us know. It really helps me with our strategy of how you all want to be talked to, and how you want information, how you want to give us information. So please let us know. Let's see, a few highlights. I'll save some engagement and inform, like how to stay informed highlights until the end, but I'll get Mike up here. So Mike French, come on up.
Thank you.
He is our prosperity officer. And we'll let him take it away with the presentation tonight.
Can everybody hear me? Yeah, okay, I'm gonna roam instead of being behind us. So the Prosperity Office actually doesn't exist. It's in theory. And the concept was actually created by Jose Madrigal, our city manager. And about July timeframe, he called me up. I had just resigned from the Economic Development Alliance, which I ran for 5 years. And he said, Mike, I have this vision of bringing economic development, housing, and tourism under one roof. Because historically, those have been at odds and they've competed. And there's an opportunity and a nexus between all three of these entities. They should be on the same side of the coin. And I applauded him for that. And I thought, that's a really strong concept. And I think I'd like to be part of that. I may not be your guy, so let me come on as a consultant and create some structure for you and figure out how we get there. So fast forward to November 1st, I agreed to come on full time. So I'm relatively new. That's my excuse. And I'll use that as long as I can. So I'll fill out the new guy card. But in order for the Prosperity Office to happen, we have to take that to City Council and ask for an ordinance. So an ordinance has to be introduced. Then there's a first reading, there's a vote, and then there's a final reading and a vote. And so that will likely have to go into March. So we're already into February now in terms of City Council. So I anticipate that the official office will be in place in March, and then we'll start having moving parts and pieces. I'm going to go into what's happened to date, and I'll actually talk about quite a bit of data, and I'll zoom through this, but I think it's important as we talk about challenges and issues that we're dealing with to talk about facts and data. And as we put together this Prosperity Office, one of the things that I'm committing to is that we use metrics and data and even some intelligence to try to problem solve, because I think that's super important, and that we are as transparent as possible to our community as to what those data points and metrics look like. So in terms of engagement, one of the things that I ask of you is what data points are really important, and how do you want to hear about data, and how would you consume data that we publish? And data is simply information, and it could be what are the impacts to our constituents, to our citizens? What are the impacts to quality of life? What are the impacts to rent, housing, ownership, et cetera, et cetera? But that's what I'm most interested in, because that gives us an idea of how we communicate and how we inform. So first of all, I want to visit the mission and vision of the city, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But I'll let you read through the vision and mission firsthand. The reason I had you read this is one of the first things I did with the group is I brought together the team from tourism, housing, and economic development, put them all in one room, and I said, if we're going to create an access and a collective group, what's the mission of this group? And second of all, how does it align to the vision and mission of the city? Because it has to, right? But it's also extremely focused on what we're trying to do. And this is what I got out of that team. Our mission is to enhance the quality of life of the residents and celebrate a multi-generational community by promoting equitable access to attainable housing, fostering inclusive economic growth, and elevating the city as a vibrant destination. The second question I asked is, how are we going to do this? Like, if we can summarize this and distill it down to the how, we will do this by enabling diverse housing opportunities, building effective partnerships that strengthens local businesses, and celebrate our unique culture to attract visitors and enrich the lives of those who call our city home. I thought this was really strong. We'll continue to refine this and make it better, but this will be our starting point. And I think it's pretty good. But again, love your feedback on this. All right, we're going to get into data. I know this is a lot of data. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. There's a couple of takeaways here. This is data through December of 2024, meaning about a month ago. And so it's published literally maybe 2 weeks ago. So it's very fresh. The important number is the year to date, because what we're comparing is all the data through the end of December compared to last year. And the takeaway here is that new listings are up, as we're seeing. Sales are somewhat down. We've seen that decline, and it actually declined quite a bit, and then it sort of came back, but it's soft. It's a soft market. And the reason being is pricing so high. If you look at the sold listings, we're down almost 6% year over year. If you look at the median price of single family, and by the way, this is single family homes, not townhomes, just single family homes, not attached, we're up 20% year over year for our median, and our average is also up close to 20%, 19 and 19.7. So that's the takeaway. Sales down, price up and holding, and double digit into the 20s, so close to 20. The median price for a single family home is $925,000 in Durango proper. It's actually a lot higher in North County in Durango Mountain. And I'll talk a little bit about how this translates to La Plata as well as Bayfield. I think that the number that's more important is the median, because the average gets skewed when we have a couple of very expensive homes that really change. But the median is pretty spot on of what we're expecting, and that's the number that we should be focusing on. And people will say, well, yeah, that's Durango, but La Plata, it's a different story. You know, if I get outside Durango, there's more affordability, or it's a little bit different, and I would argue that. And here's the data that supports that. Sold listings also a little soft, not as soft as Durango, right? Minus 2.1%. Median price was not up significantly, only about 2%. That's manageable. Pretty much tracking with the cost of living increase and inflation. And the average sales price was actually down almost 4%. But if you look at the numbers, it's still $740,000 in the county. This is the entire county, and $904 on the average for a single family home. All right, let's take it one step further. Let's look at Bayfield. Sold listings actually up, a lot happening in Bayfield. Applaud all the work that they're doing to bring inventory to market. The median price is up 5% and the average price is up 6.9. Not huge, but they're also tracking on an upward trend. If you look at the pricing, it's a little more manageable. It went from 490 to 515 of a median single family home. Good data. This is why we're having a challenge is from 2020 to 2024, we've had an 85% increase in median single family home price.
Whoa.
That's 85%. So that's what we're dealing with, right? And I can guarantee you that our wages have not kept track at an 85% clip. At least mine hasn't, right? All right, some more data. Ownership. In La Plata County, 71% own a home of the residents. In Bayfield, it's 74. In Durango, it's 55. That's why rental is so important in Durango. And in Ignacio, it's 62. I'm going to talk a little bit about rent, and this is La Plata County. I don't have the data for Durango, but in La Plata County, renters that are less than 50% AMI, and AMI is annual median income. For a single person, it's about $68,000 in Durango, actually in La Plata County. So for folks earning half of that individual, for a family of four, it's about 102,000, right? So family of four, closer to $50,000 income, for single person, closer to maybe 34,000, 35,000. We have 2,700 people that are under 50% AMI looking for apartments. Our inventory is 1,752. So we have a gap of approximately 963 units in that price range, right? And it's not the fact that we have a gap in inventory, it's a gap in that specific price range. If that makes any sense. That's another problem that we have to desperately address, is how do we create inventory in that price range? All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about goals of housing. I'll stick with housing for just a minute. There's a needs assessment that's being published in February from the RHA. They commissioned a company called Root Policy to come out with a needs assessment. And that's stating, the sneak peek to it is that there's approximately shortage today of 300 units without looking at year over year shortages that we're going to anticipate. I actually think it's a little larger because we're going off of data, that's census data from probably 2 years back, right? So a lot has changed in the last 24 months. Proposition 123, that was on the ballot initiative in 2022. It earmarked approximately $300 million from state tax that would be earmarked specifically for housing. It'll go to two things. One is on the inventory side to help communities like ours develop inventory. The other is on the consumer side to help with mortgage assistance. Our Homes Fund, our local mortgage assistance group, just got a state grant for a couple of $1 million to do 42 loans over the next 3 years. And so they're doling that out at approximately $25,000 a piece. They're stacking it with other loan offerings. So for example, the city, both the city and the county participate. Fort Lewis College participates. FERC participates with their specific employees and builds a capital stack of mortgage assistance upwards of $75,000 for first-time homeowners that qualify. So that's a good thing. We have not gotten online for this money because we don't have a shovel-ready project yet, but we're getting there. I'll talk about that in just a second. The city of Durango, you have to opt into the program, and opting in means that you commit to 3% growth of inventory for 3 years in a row. That's a 9% lift for affordable housing to opt into that program. So we opted in, felt pretty confident that we could take on that goal. So that's the #1 goal for us right now. What are we doing about this? How are we addressing that? Well, we just closed on a piece of property last month. Probably read in the newspaper, Rivergate property that's right in front of Anima Surgical Hospital. We bought a piece of land. There's a land next door to it. We have a right of first refusal on that property. We have the density capability to build 31 units of affordable housing. If we get a right developer, we can exercise our right of first refusal and go up to 70 units of affordable housing there. We'll put out an RFQ in the next month or two and look for developers to partner with us. I want to be really clear, the city is not in the development business, and we will not be. We're in the strategic partner business, so we will look for public-private partnerships to execute and look for private developers to come to the table and help us. We'll heavily incentivize them as much as we can, but a lot of people say that the city should not be competing with private market. We should not be in the development business, and we're not, right? But somebody's got to step up to the table and help stimulate this. We just closed on one townhome. There was 11 units. This was the last of the 11 units, so we got that finished last month as well. And then this is the big news. The residents of Durango, that project started a couple of years ago. And I'm kind of showing up at the tail end here, but 72 units will come available and take occupancy at the end of February. It's been delayed for about 30 days. But that's the old Best Western on 160 that you guys drive by every now and then. On the heels of that will be 48 units on the back. There's brand new construction of 2 3-bedroom units. I got a chance to walk through that. They've done a really good job there. I'm really excited about it. Again, want to be really clear. These are income qualified, 30 to 60% AMI. This is not a shelter. I've heard a lot of rumors of, oh, now we're going to have a new homeless shelter, and this is a Sparrow Part 2, and this is workforce housing, 30 to 60% AMI, income qualified, property management on site, and we are looking to even put childcare or some kind of function on site as community services. So I really applaud the entire staff for all the work that they've done to get to this point and get this up and running. It was a $35 million project to create 120 units. Again, want to address, scuttlebutt I've heard is, oh, the city should not have invested that kind of money. Well, we didn't. We used ARPA funds, which were federal dollars, to help fund this. We used congressional earmark, right? So Hickenlooper and Bennett stepped up to plate and put about $4 million into that. We brought on a private partner, that developer that built that. The county stepped in and provided a loan, which has been paid off. So there was a huge capital stack. When it's all said and done, we probably allocated maybe $2 million to a $35 million project to get that done. So really proud of this project. Lightner Creek Commons is where the old Animas High School is. There'll be 31 workforce housing units. It'll probably be about 80% AMI and lower. And this is a really interesting project because as Westside Mobile Home Park looks to go from manufactured housing to permanent housing, they'll probably figure out how to use that asset to move people back into it, right? Because within that whole unit, they'll probably break it up into 10 phases so they can move people out, bring people back, move people out, bring people back. Great preservation project. The Durango Crossing, 250 and Florida, it's a 3-way light. This makes it a 4-way light going into that right-of-way property that the city owns. We're partnering again with another developer who has bought some property there. If we can get this right and build a capital stack, we'll create 150 units in there. And it'll be a mixture of rent and for sale, townhomes, and probably a multifamily property. My guess is 100% of the rental will be 100% AMI or less, which is fantastic because we just talked about how desperately we need rental units. We formed a brand new urban renewal authority district, a URA district there. It's already been approved by URA board. Now we're looking to 9R and the county to participate. We can get them on board. We will, and I'll have a slide to this in just a second. We'll even increase the amount of affordable housing units in that area, right? And let me explain. Acronyms are horrible. The URA, Urban Renewal Authority, allows us to do incremental tax financing, meaning We'll take the taxes that this will increase, not the taxes currently, but the taxes that will increase as a result of these units. Use those taxes to help fund or finance and put a debt instrument in place to get this stuff built. Make sense? Okay, and then West Side Triangle Park, I just talked about that, but there'll be 12 brand new units on top of the preservation of workforce housing, or under market housing. So all of this is how we're gonna meet our numbers and meet our goals for that 3% per year. And I think we're well on our way. And hopefully we can get the line for some money from the state. All right, let's talk tourism. I'm gonna shift the gear, and by the way, I'll answer some questions. I'll go as quick as I can so we can do some Q&A. Tourism, tourism's coming into the Future Prosperity Office. Visit Durango, they've been working with their board of directors to figure out where there's overlap with the city to do a phase 1 of bringing them into the city. As I started working with them and started understanding where we could take advantage of some common efforts, the Visit Durango board said, does it make sense for the entire entity to go into the city? And we looked at that, we talked to the employees, we talked to the board members. The board actually sent a letter to city manager requesting that the city consider merging the entire organization into the city. And I think that's good for the community because it gives tremendous oversight of all those large tax dollars spent and the programming that historically has gone to a third party, which is a 501c6. Short term, which has already happened, the Welcome Center will come into the operations of the city and all the part-time incredible employees that are at the Welcome Center, as well as a couple of employees that have some overlap with the city today, which is the sustainability and community engagement. And I got to tell you, Visit Durango has had some negative press in the last few months, and I can understand that. But when you really get to know the board and the existing staff and the work that they do, I really stand behind them. And I'm really excited to bring them in. These are all great people, including the board, which we will form a tourism commission that will mirror what our airport commission looks like and start to seat that tourism commission with a handful of existing board members and then open it up to community members to be appointed, right? So that way we get more community participation, a lot of transparency. That board will recommend a budget to city council, and then we're off to the races. I already talked about the prosperity office. I think I already talked about this as well. Economic opportunity. So there's only a couple of levers that the city has to promote economic prosperity. One of those is that incremental tax financing that I talked about, is how do we look at future taxes and create incentives? And then the second is grants that have come off the larger stacks. And those are grants in the creative or grants in sustainability or what have you, right? When you look at all the grants combined, whether it's creative grants through the creative economy, creative district, or if it's sustainability grants, or if it's local marketing grants, you combine all of them, there's about $900,000 in grants that we're handing out per year right now. And so what we're trying to do is find some economies of scale and look at efficiencies, bring on some software to help us manage that and let us track that and do a better job of dispersing those grants. So one of the things that Tommy Crosby, who heads up economic opportunity, Tommy does a phenomenal job. One of the things that he has put in place is a economic development incentive program. And what this does is look at future sales tax and an opportunity to incentivize a business to come in that normally wouldn't. So giving them some, not necessarily guarantees, but if we agree on some mile markers of revenue, jobs, and sales tax, that we can offer those back as a rebate for 3 years, 4 years, whatever, to make that business work, right? Let me give you an example. We desperately need a grocery store in the Three Springs area, right? And who's going to make the first move to get there? And how's that going to work? Because it's expensive. So if we can work with somebody and prefer to work local, that's the other thing that we'll put in a matrix here, is we don't want to compete with local. So this is not a franchise opportunity. It's not offering an incentive for somebody to come in and compete with what already exists. But if there's a community need, we can get local participation, local entrepreneurship, we should be able to incentivize it in some way, shape, or form. I think I already talked about most of this. The only thing I'll say is one of the things that Tommy's done, which I'm really excited about, is he's partnered with Fort Lewis College to look at all the grants that we've done in the last 3 years and do an economic impact study. And again, getting back to the emphasis on data and really understanding what our metrics are and how we use data. This is a great example of how we need to continue to do that. Any questions? I raced through that.
Yeah.
A lot of data.
No problem. Yeah, we'll go till about 6 with questions, just so you don't feel like I'm like cutting you off in the middle, but 15 minutes, that way we have plenty of time for table visits and introductions and things like that, so. Yes.
Yes. Sure. Oh, right before questions. Okay, I'm sorry.
Great. That's all I need.
You bet. Yes, ma'am.
I have two quick questions. The first one is, could these slides be available on the city's website? Thank you. And then my second question is, when you mentioned the West Side Mobile Home Park, I sit on the CDC, and when we reviewed it, they had 22 apartments. This is in addition to the 70 manufactured homes that they're replacing. And I would assume that those 22 apartments are for people to move into while they're waiting for their manufactured
Correct.
home to be delivered. So after they said they would complete this in 3 to 5 years. So after the 5-year completion, would those 22 apartments become available to people who did not already live in the West Side Mobile Home?
That's the objective.
Okay. And do you think if you know, do you think they would be also renting for an affordable or attainable rate?
100%.
Okay,
So the whole property is being managed as a land grant through Elevation Foundation.
right.
And that's all they do is under market, affordable housing. So I can guarantee you that that will not be at market housing.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay, so you might have mentioned it because you went through a lot of numbers.
Yes.
Did you say what the AM was?
It depends. So AMI is based on number of people per household. So the AMI for a single person in La Plata County is approximately $68,000 per year. That's 100% AMI. And so the chart goes 100, it probably goes up to 160 these days. And then it goes all the way down to 30.
Depending on the number.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay, is it possible to go back to the chart where you had the residents or the list of the different housing?
Yeah, sure.
Back,
I think this is where we've talked about residents.
There it is.
that. And first of all, you started all your data at the beginning with single family.
Yes.
I assume a lot of this is not single family.
Most of this, well, it's a combination of single family. When I say single family, I'm talking about single family homes. So that is unattached as opposed to townhomes, condominiums, which are considered attached, or multifamily, which are apartment complexes, right?
But are these all,
No,
are any of these single family?
yes, Rivergate will probably be a combination, but my guess is going to be half and half. That's my guess. ACPO is single family attached, so townhome. Residents of Durango will all be rental, 100%. So all 120 of these units.
Are they, but they're not single family or some of them are?
They're
They go,
studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms.
okay,
Yes.
but they're all attached.
Yeah. Yes, they're in, 3 large units and then 1 large unit in back or 2. Lightner Creek will all be, single family home units, unattached. Durango Crossing, combination of townhomes in the back. So probably 2 units per townhome. And then a large multifamily in the front. Totaling about 150 units.
That's, thank you.
Yeah. Good question.
Any other questions? Hey, you know what? Can you tell everybody what AMI stands for?
Yes, annual median income.
Did we get that?
Annual median income. Yes.
I wonder if the city has any plans to address our house.
Plans to address the unhoused.
Yes. So that, and by the way, it's really appreciated that we have.
Yeah.
No. But it's nice to have a house. Safe place. Sleep. Definitely whatever site there is, it needs to be adequate. And the sparrow is wonderful. We don't have any, we do have a shelter.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for the question.
And by the way, the term I mentioned is, it's, you have to be sober, you have to, and it's a life and type there.
Yeah.
Something located, like sparrow.
So the question was, is the city involved in any of the housing for the unhoused, the homeless? Are there any projects or initiatives in place under this department? Today, all of our work is around 30% AMI and up. We rely on federal programming, HUD and those kind of programs to do the 30 and below. A lot of people ask, well, what are we doing about transitional housing like a sparrow? Why aren't we building more sparrows? If we can build more things like the Residence Inn, that allows the people at a sparrow who are waiting for housing to move up, right? And it creates movement. One of the big things that we're dealing with today is there's no movement because there's no inventory. So even if you wanted to downsize today for a single family home and realize your equity, there's nowhere to go, right? So I know people don't like to hear this, but all inventory is good inventory because it creates movement, right? We free up, even if, now I'm not saying we need to build more custom homes, you know, within the city. But even sometimes that creates movement. Yeah, I'll toss that.
It's something like citizen.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I wanted to know, does the city or the state, use within the district of the, of this town? Because where I live, I've been here for 9 years, okay? And I've been living up with them for a long time, trying to make things like be better for us, sustainable, And then, it's just like that, it's just like we're neglected where we're at. Because we're on the south side. And I don't really see any folks or anybody around there. I mean, there's something going on. And it's pretty bad back there, and I'm just wondering. I'm going through a situation with this housing, so I already will, but, I got that solved. But I went to places here in Durango. I went to maybe 3 places, even, got legal aid, they didn't even help. I mean, where do I go if I don't want to be homeless or whatever? I mean, I did that unit for 9 years. And I go through, I have personal issues, I'm going to say that, but they haven't given me a stove for a month and a half now. I mean, I've been waiting, I have emails to the NID now because they have no information, and I'm just wondering if they, been talking with you guys at all? I mean, if you guys have like a one where you guys all get together and talk about all these things within the rental places, because I have a concern, I'm on the top, right? And the snow was so high last year or 2 years ago? I mean, I've never seen it up there on the roof, and I mentioned that to them, but they just don't want it from us, and I'm kind of, in a boat where they've been having so many employees that they're messing up our paperwork, but they're blaming us for things, and I've been trying to explain to them, because see, I got a third notice saying that it was for terms of termination, right? But I didn't receive 2 of them before that. So I had to question them, but they never get back to me. And, and I'm just wondering if you guys can know about truth like that.
Trudy, yeah, I think there were a lot of questions kind of wrapped into everything you said there. I think there's like code enforcement things that you can talk about, public safety. So I think for this breakout session, it might be helpful to kind of visit tables and kind of chat about those things. Like, I would, first stop, I think, would be right here. Yeah.
Because, it's really, I mean,
Sure.
I brought this up to them, okay, about the homelessness she was talking about. And, I've had to talk to them too, because they're all up in our alley too, always there. And the cops, they don't, it's telling you guys need to go and, but I don't know when that's gonna go.
Trudy, I'm sure these
I had warned you guys about it because, I told you guys that maybe one of them might pass. And they did. The guy was gone in the morning when the kids were all going to school, and I think for those kids like that. And I like that.
Yeah.
Why is that man not cooking? And we don't need to see that around here.
So I just want to come back though to like, we only have 15 minutes for the questions. And so I want to point you over here to kind of address those concerns for sure. We can have those discussions. But I want to make sure just sticking kind of with the theme of what's going on as well and making sure that we get around the room with folks' questions. Okay, Trudy?
Trudy,
That's why I'm just wondering where I can go.
at the break, I will come see you, because there are a couple of entities that I think we can direct you to. So let me talk to you in person.
And there's just big questions in there. Long conversation.
Go through the services in Denver.
Yeah.
Get through with the Native Americans.
Got it.
Not to anybody. I don't know what that is, racism thing or what, I'm just.
We agree with Mike. That's why it's set up the way it is, and that's great. So we can talk to each other.
Do you have a question?
One of the data points I didn't hear about was short-term rentals.
Yes.
The impact that has on our housing. And so any thoughts, comments, more work to be done.
Yep, very happy to talk about that.
Yeah.
So short-term rentals, STRs. There's a misnomer that the city has a short-term rental problem. So I know this because I spent a lot of time and energy while I was at the Economic Development Alliance to figure out where we could get an excise tax on STRs to put into housing, right? And I thought I had found a silver bullet because there's a ton of STRs in the county. So there's about 120 STRs in the city. There's over 1,800 in the county. And the density's probably up in like around Vallecillos and North County around Purgatory, right? But if we were to be able to create an excise tax on those STRs, we could raise, even if we just raise the tax from 2% what it is today and put a 5% excise tax, we would raise between $3 and $4 million a year.
Wow.
The county does not have the jurisdiction to do an STR excise tax. Now they're trying to lobby to go to ballot this year to increase it from 2 to 6 and give them jurisdiction. as a home rule, we have jurisdiction to increase our lodger's tax and do an STR tax, but we wouldn't raise much money if we taxed STRs. STRs in the city is highly controlled. You can't just go and do an STR. And I'm glad that we did that because in the county, they're not even registered, right? So it's kind of hard for the county to manage that right now. And I know that they're addressing that. They want to. That's why they're heavily supporting this House bill that's being formed to increase the tax. And it would not be an excise tax. It would be an increase of lodger's tax, which right now is a flat 2% to potentially 6%. And that would have to go to local ballot. But yeah, I think all of the STR challenges are in the county. Shouldn't say all, but majority of the volume is in the county. And that's where our opportunities are for tax and to manage that as much as possible.
Dick, you got your hand up for a while.
The question I have is there a legal way to provide some sort of tax on empty homes? That is to say, second home division has been only a short part of the year.
Yeah, unfortunately not. It's, there's not a legal way for us to do that. We could do transfer fees and those kind of things, but the places, a lot of people say, well, wait a minute, Telluride does that. They've been grandfathered in because they had that tax that existed prior to Tabor. You really can't do a special tax or an excise tax against second homeowners, or, we have to work with a PD, a district, and do a transfer tax, which we have in Twin Buttes, which we have in Three Springs, and we are using those monies to afford mortgage assistance. So yeah, fortunately, we can't do it.
Issue, it's a one sentence change.
I totally agree. Yeah. I'm behind you 100%.
Eve, we haven't heard from you yet. Yeah.
Question, just question to that. So these, if I read you it, instead of a rental, townhome, single units, such, talked about the OI, ballpark, what are these rental, what are the ratios? 1,200, 1,500, 1,800.
Yeah, that's a great question. It depends on the AMI. And so the way AMI is calculated, so you bring up a really good question. This is how AMI affordability is calculated. Housing should not be any more than 30% of total income, right? So if it's, and that's exactly where AMI is at. So if you do the math, it has to be at 30% or below. So what I can do is after the session is give you my contact, and I can give you all the charts that have rental as well as housing affordability for AMI from 30 to 150, 160. And that's how we keep everybody honest.
Okay, yeah, no, I appreciate this. I'm basically that. Basically that. So yeah, I am looking at what is your stock? What is the mean?
Yeah.
What are the rates? Actually, who are we helping? And we talk from the spectrum from our $9
Yeah,
to our workforce.
correct.
And the number of units and how units are good units, but how do we advise the people that are
Yeah,
really the least resourced individuals and most vulnerable? How big of a jump are we making this with this 3% per year, 61 unit division? That was a lot.
yeah.
I'll roll in one, but I
Yeah.
don't want track. I just want to know more.
I'll give you a personal opinion. And it's probably not popular with everybody. But we only have so many resources to allocate across the entire housing continuum. So we have to kind of figure out where we have the most impact. in order to do what you're saying, we need this community to make housing more than just a talking priority and be able to go to ballot with a sustainable funding source for housing, which we do not have today. Right? That's how we're going to be able to create housing solutions that we can get further faster.
And I think the challenge that's very office, where's me in economics, because I'm all about sustainable growth, and multicultural and economic diversity, but having people come here. And I think the real challenge becomes without really, for lack of better words, coming some of the improving the authenticity of our community. And some of the character of the charm and the name of growth.
Yeah.
The reason we go to people West Town, the feel from city to county, the word, the agriculture, the whole enchilada. I just think is the one part of the west side. 250 and Florida, we already got this intersection of Third Avenue to one avenue. And so anyways, it's a very broad question.
Yeah.
Those are the things that I'm concerned with the resident. What are we doing?
I'm just, that's a huge question, even as stated, we're way past our time at this point. And so is it, okay, we have 25 minutes left in the evening, and the kind of the point of the forum is also, there's folks who are in the room who, you know, want to also talk to other departments. And so I just want to go around the room and make sure you guys all have time to be able to talk with whoever you came here to talk with. So questions don't have to end just in this like public, very public setting, they're ending. So feel free to keep asking questions. I usually save time for us to go around the room and introduce each other. Just take that upon yourselves. Be friendly, humanize yourselves, and say hi to your staff members here that are representing the municipality. Thank you all for coming tonight. I'm going to click over there to the QR codes here. A couple more engagement opportunities that you do have. The Engage Durango website. Do you have the clicker stuff on it? Nice. Thank you, Devin. Devin's on it. Okay. So that first big QR code is let us know how we did at the end of the night. And then over there, that's an additional QR code that'll take you to the Engage Durango website, where you can find all of the City of Durango projects that we're asking for feedback, or we have asked for feedback in the past on. So you can find a lot of resources there. Tonight's presentation and slides will go up. If you don't want to use a QR code and use your phone, or you didn't bring your phone tonight, back with Kat. She has those 3 iPads that you had at the check-in counter. They're now going to become the evaluate us form. So they're back there. See Click Fix, check it out on our website. You got a pothole or something to report, that's a great one. Let's see, council meetings, first and third Tuesdays. You can do those from your pajamas from home, and your pajamas from home. So you don't have to show up to City Hall if you don't want to. There's also translation of or interpretation available for those. And then you can stay up to date with anything City of Durango, any news that we have through the Notify Me, which Tom over there and crew out of the PIO crew can tell you a lot more about. So thank you all for coming. I hope we see you again soon. Nerds Night Out Trivia also is coming up on the 13th of February. We'd love to see you at Esoterra at 7. You can win prizes. All right, bye.
Thanks you.
Put together.